Hello children, you're welcome to this segment of the program The Classroom in Your Home. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. I am Unkwagbaje. Today in mathematics, we are moving on from our work on plane shapes to three-dimensional shapes, as you may have observed from the items that I have on my table. We're going to be looking at what is called the net of shapes. But before we look at what net is it the table tennis net, or is it the net that is used to shield you from mosquitoes? Let's look at correction to the previous homework. In the last lesson, you were asked to copy this and fill in the gaps, and the answers will come up right about now. A closed shape bounded by two radii and an arc is called a sector. I believe you got that right. A closed shape bounded by a chord and an arc is called a segment. The bigger one is the major segment and the smaller one is the minor segment. Half of a circle is called a semicircle. 1/4 of a circle is a quadrant. And finally, the total distance around a circle, we call it the circumference. Now, I believe you got all that right because it was really, really easy. And for that, I'm going to celebrate you with a chair. Now, moving on, let's look at what we have here. This is a cube. The picture here is a cube. And a cube is an example of a prism. Remember we did prism some weeks ago. Shapes that have the same top and the same bottom and flat sides, we call them prism. It is a solid shape. The cube has 12 straight edges. 4 on top, 4 on this side. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5, 6, 7, 8, and then below 9, 10, 11, 12. It also has 6 square faces. I'm going to label the faces for you. So you see, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, and this is 6. Of course, we've done all these before, but we need to pay attention to these faces today. Each of these faces are squares. Whichever way you turn it, you will always see a square. Now, let us open up the cube at the edges. Now, I can't open up this cube because, it's plastic. But I'm going to open up this one that I have on the screen. So I'm going to duplicate it first so that I have another one. And this is the one that I'm going to open. And let's see when we open up this cube what's going to happen. So let's go. First, we'll open up the top. Okay, so let's open up the top all the way. And then we'll open up the right face, and that is this one. So let it go. Yeah, so the right face is open. And then we open up the front, the white part. So it comes, and it comes down. And then probably we open up the left face, which is the blue side. Let that one come. Finally, the red one. So now we have fully opened up the whole cube. We are ending up with this flat shape that is looking like a cross, for Christians. This looks like a cross. So let me just rotate that up for you so that you can see it. So from this solid shape, we have opened it up along the edges and we end up with this flat shape. So this flat shape is what we call the net in mathematics. So you don't think of net like the mosquito net or the table tennis net, no. When we talk about net in the mathematics class, we are talking of a flat shape of this nature. For the cube that we opened up to get this flat shape, this shape is called the net of the cube. And that is exactly bone of contention today. So what's exactly our learning objectives? By the end of this lesson, you should be able to draw the net of a cube. Well, at least you know that the net of a cube is looking like a cross now. You should also be able to draw the net of a cuboid. Now you should be able to draw the net of a triangular prism. And for all other prisms, you should have an idea of how to draw their nets as well. So without wasting much time, let's just move right into it. Nets are flat shapes, as you have seen before, that you can fold to get a solid shape. Now, there will be different nets for different shapes. So don't think that all shapes can be formed with a cross. You will see as we go along in this lesson. Now, look at this net for the cube that we saw in the opening example. Study it, and you will see that it has 6 square faces. I mean, 6 squares. 1, 2, let me just label them for you. Okay, so just use this color here. All right. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's white. 6. So I'll write this one in red so that you can see it. Now you have 6 squares for the net. Now, it is very, very easy to draw the net of any prism. You don't actually need to look for the prism and start cutting all the time. No. You can draw it with just your pencil paper and a little bit of creative imagination. The net of a shape is simply the arrangement of all the faces of the solid. And you could say that when we add the net of a cube, we add 6 squares. And the 6 squares corresponds to each of these 6 faces of the cube. So there are 6 squares that form the cube. We just open them up and we have a shape that is made up of 6 squares exactly. So each face will form part of the net. So you'll see how this is done in a more practical way. The net that you saw in the other diagram is the arrangement of all the faces of the solid shape, like I've said. Now, depending on how you open it, I opened it one way and we ended up with this. There could be another way we open it and we end up with another diagram. You could end up with something like this. So in this case, it will not be a cross anymore. The square could have moved. It could be anywhere. Now, as long as you have 6 squares at the end of the day. So it could be here, one could be here, and one could be on the other side. But you must have 6 squares at the end of the day. So let's see whether this one, if we open up the cube in another way, we'll end up with something like this. Let's go. So we'll start with this cube, and then we open up the top, and then open up the right front. Yeah, that's fully open. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this right part. Not just the right part, I will open on the back part along with it, like this. See? So it's going to come down. Now, I'm opening up the left, and finally I open up the back. So you can see we are gotten something like that other one that we saw the other time. Here it is. Okay, so this is also the net of a cube. So when you see a question that says you should identify the net of the shape, you don't have to keep looking for the cross. The net of a cube could also come in this form, or this could be here and this be here, or one could be here and one could be below, as long as they are on opposite sides, and there are 6 of them. Now, all prisms will have rectangular faces. You forget that a square is a type of rectangle. All prisms have rectangular faces. Their nets also will also have rectangles. I'll take that again. All prisms have rectangular faces. So since they have rectangular faces, when you unfold them, the net will also contain some rectangles. Now, the number of rectangles that you're supposed to have will now depend on the number of sides that forms the base. Let's see an example of this. So for each solid shape, you will have some, that's a prism, you'll have some rectangular faces, and then you'll have the top and the bottom to complete it. So in this case, you have on the side 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles, then the top is a square and the bottom is a square. And that's why you must have 6 shapes in the net. So let's take a look at something interesting. I want to draw a prism here. I want the top to be 5-sided, which is a pentagon, and the bottom will also be 5-sided. And of course, you know that for prisms, they have straight sides. So I'm going to join them, the straight sides. Now you see that the rectangular faces begin to show themselves here. This is a rectangular face. This one here, it comes down like this, okay? And here is another one. But you will see it better when I open it up now. So I'm going to open it up. See, I've opened it up a little bit. Now you see one rectangle, one rectangle, one rectangle, one rectangle, one rectangle. There are 5 rectangles corresponding to the 5 sides of the pentagon. So if it's an hexagon that has 6 sides, then there will be 6 rectangles standing upright. That's what we're saying. So the shape at the bottom will determine how many rectangles you will have. And finally, I open it up fully and you have this shape. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rectangles must be there. Then the top is a pentagon, the bottom is a pentagon. So in all, you will have 5 rectangles for each of the 5 sides of the pentagon, then 1 pentagon below and 1 pentagon above. And you have the net of this prism, a pentagonal prism. So when you want to draw your own pentagon or your own net, just imagine what shape is on top, what shape is on the bottom. They must be part of the net. Then how many sides does the shape have? And that will give you the number of rectangles you will have. Let's take a look at another one. Here is a triangular prism. Again, it's a triangular prism, and that means that it has a triangle as top and triangle as bottom. The top is here, the bottom is there. Now, how many rectangular faces do you think it has? It's a triangular prism. So how many rectangular faces will it have? Did you say 3? If you said 3, then you will be correct. It will have 3 rectangular faces because a triangle has 3 sides, and for each of the sides you will end up with a rectangle. Look at this one here. Here, you have a triangle here, but for this side alone you have a rectangle for it. And so for this side you will have a rectangle, and for this side you will have a rectangle, which means that there will be 3 rectangular faces in the net. Then the rectangle that is at the top, the triangle at the top and the triangle at the bottom will also complete that net. Let's now see how that net will look like. Let's open up this shape. So I'm going to open it up. I've opened the left part of it, or the base. Open it up completely. Then I open up the front. Okay, so open it up completely. Now I will open up the right. And then finally I open up the back. And so you see that we are ending up with 3 rectangles like we have said, but 2 triangles, 1 for the top and 1 for the bottom. And now this triangle can be anywhere. One can be here and the other one can be here, or one can be here and the other one can be here, as long as you have 2 triangles and they're on opposite sides, you will have the net of the shape. Now, it's your turn. Let's assess your understanding of what you have learned so far. This is a rectangular prism. It's also called a cuboid. I want you to make a sketch of what you think the net will look like, and I'll be right back. You have 1 minute. Begin. Alrighty then, eyes on me. I believe that you have made your sketch. Let's now unveil what the net of a rectangular prism actually looks like. Here it is. Did you get something of this nature? Well, let me explain why this is to you. Now, a rectangular prism, which is a cuboid, the base will be a rectangle and the top will be a rectangle. Now, a rectangle has 4 sides, and that means that we will have 4 rectangular bodies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, something like this. Now, the top and the bottom will be on opposite sides. So I can put 1 rectangle here, 5. I can put 1 here, 6. or I can decide not to put one here. Oh, okay, need the eraser here. Okay, now I can decide to put another one here. So as long as they are on opposite ends, you will always have the net. Okay, so but if you have something like this, you're correct. If you also have, if you have drawn something like this, or you put it here or you put it here, you will also not be wrong. If you have put your second rectangle here, you will not be wrong. So I believe that you got it right. But let's just confirm that this shape actually folds up into that rectangular prism that I showed you in the first place. So let's go. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to flatten it a little bit so that it will be easy for us to fold. Now let's begin folding. I'll begin from the left. I fold that up. Now I fold that, then I take the back, which is the white part. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to bring this white and the blue and the red base. I'm going to just fold it up like this. And it's going to come, close it up, and then finally I'll close up the front part, which is the green one, and then close up the left. Voila, we have our rectangular prism. It was interesting. So for instance, if I ask you to draw the net of a pentagonal prism, all you need to do is just say, well, a pentagon has 5 sides, so that I'll draw 5 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then a pentagon must be at the top and a pentagon must be at the bottom. So I'll put one pentagon here. You know. Yeah, something like that. And then another pentagon probably somewhere here. You know. And then you have your net. It's as simple as that. Now it's time for your homework. I'm going to give you something relatively simple actually. It's something that you need to do some research on and ponder over. You're going to draw for your homework. You will draw the net of a cylinder, and I will be on hand in the next lesson to show you the correct drawing. Take your time, practice. You can even try folding it up by yourself, whether it will fold into a cylinder. It's time for the general studies lesson. As I sign off, till I come your way next time, remain wonderful mathematicians.